Hello guys, welcome to our classes. Today we're going to look at changing subject of formula. Now this one includes, we're going to include everyone. It's not only for extended, but it's also for core students. So we are going to look at changing subject of formula. Now, what is subject of formula? Usually, when you have an equation, and let's say this equation is saying x is equal to maybe b plus c. So what we call the equation of the subject of formula is this guy that is on this side. So here in the definition, you can see that the subject of a formula is the single variable. So it's a single variable, usually on the left side, of the equation, that everything else is equal to. So now, what you see now is that let's do this, change the color. Okay. So what you see is that you must have this variable, this single variable must be only found on that left side. So let's say, for example, I had x, maybe 2x is equal to maybe a plus c, and then here I plus x. So what you must do first of all is you must ensure that this x is on one side. So we must not have different x's all over. Even also, we cannot have x squared, because what we really want when we say subject formula, we want to find what the value of the actual x is. So we can't have x squared is equal to maybe y plus b as the answer. So this one is not accepted because we don't want to find x squared, but what we want to find is what is the value of x directly. So you need to know how to do away with this. So that's what we are going to do with today. So I'm going to do this I'm going to take a little bit of time to explain this. I'm not going to rush it because you really need to understand what is going on in this one. Okay. All right. Okay, so in the formula, what I want you to do to understand first are the operations that we find in equation. Operations. What are the operations? The mathematical operations. So we have addition, we have subtraction, we have division. Basically, in this one you can say we have fraction, and we also have multiplication. So now, what I want you to do is, every time you are dealing with subject of formula, whenever you want, what you are trying to do is to move everything else on one side. Let's say, for example, I had A is equal to 2C plus B. So if they say, let's say they say make B the subject of formula, they want you to make B subject of formula. In other words, your answer should have B is equal to at the end, something like that. That means you have to remove, you have to find a way of taking this 2 to the other side, and that is simple. But for you to do that, you need to know what is the operation between B and these two. Okay, so these ones are different terms, so it's easy. Now, what you do is you look at the sign that these two has. It's like you're solving an equation. This one is a positive here, so when it jumps here, it's going to be a negative on this side. Maybe a negative there becomes negative 2C is equal to B. So though we usually write B is equal to, once you have B on that side, then you are done. All you can do is now start with the B and then you rewrite this one on the other side. Okay. So basically what I did here is I changed the subject formula, but I want you to understand the process. So you always check the term that you want to move, or whatever number that you want to move. Check what is its relationship to the term that we want to make, or the variable that we want to make as our subject. So if they are adding, Then what you basically do is you do the opposite on the other side. So it goes to the other side, becomes a minus. If it was being subtracted or it was negative, it comes to the other side, becomes a plus. If it was dividing, if it was a fraction, so this number was a divider. So let's say, for example, I had an A over C here is equal to B, and I want to make A subject formula. Now, what I want to do is I want to remove this guy. So I ask them, what is this guy doing to this guy? So you can see that it's dividing, so that is division. So what do you do? When it goes the other side, becomes what? The opposite of division, which is multiplication sign. Okay? And then here, when we have 2A is equal to B. When you want A to be subject formula, normally we just say, okay, divide both sides by 2. So this is because these two were multiplying each other. That's why we are dividing. So eventually, in the end, we have an answer is equal to A. A is equal to B over 2. So what we just did is we took these two and we divided it on the other side. We divide everything on that side. So that means when you have multiplication, it becomes a division sign. Okay, so these are the basic things that we use. But sometimes you also get to see things like powers now. Let's say we have a power, it's a square, the power. Now the opposite of a square is a square root. So when it goes to the other side, it should become square root. So normally when you have a square, we put square root both sides. So basically what we do is we square root the other side. So a square, when it jumps, the cosine becomes a square root on the other side. And if you had a square root, when the square root jumps the cosine, it becomes a square on the other side, becomes a power. Whatever is there becomes a power. So the same with maybe, I think I can end there. It would be the same if you had a power 3, then here you would have a cube root of 3 when it goes the other side. So the power 3, when it jumps here, becomes that. So it's just going to be like that. So these are the few operations that you need to know first before you go into the solutions. And, let's see this. This is found on page 73. This is it's on pages 873. In y is equal to mx plus c. Okay, let's do some exercises, some different examples, then you'll be learning from those examples. So I'll be doing the exercises here so that you see how I'll be using these. Right. Okay. Okay. Let's look at the first. Okay, so I'm going to example 1. I'm going to take an easy one. So we have y is equal to 2x plus 3. Because that can see that they will see that this is our m, this is our c. So this basically y is equal to mx plus c. So now in this case, our subject of formula is y. But the question is, make x the subject of formula. So we want to change the subject of formula from y to be x. Okay. So how do you do this? The first thing you want to do is you want to see the terms. So now we have this term, we have these two terms. Now, which term has our subject? So the term that is our subject is this one. So once you identify your terms and you see the terms that have your subject, what you want to do first is you move all the other terms that do not have your subject to the other side. So you move all the terms that don't have your subject to the other side. Okay? That means if you had more terms that had your subject, maybe we had another term here, maybe x, you're going to move this x on one side. So basically what you want to do is you want to make sure that the terms that contain your subject are always on one side of the equation and the rest on the other side. Okay? I will show another example that will maybe address what I just said now. So you're going to move this 3 on the other side. So what is this 3 doing here? Remember, it's plus. When you change the equal sign, it becomes what? A minus. So it was a plus, so it goes to be a minus. So it comes here, it becomes y minus 3 is equal to 2x. Now that all the other terms are on one side, we go back to the term that contains our subject, and we can remove what we are able to remove from there. Okay? So you can see that now we have 2 multiplying the x. What do we do? In normal cases, we just say divide both sides by 2. Okay, so that means our x is equal to y minus 3 all over 2. We have just made x because now x is on its own. I know in most cases we want to rewrite it with x on this side, but it is still the same thing. So doing this, we have made x the subject formula in a very, very simple manner, in a very simple way. Okay, that is very easy. Let me look at the example, another example. Example 2. Let me put it in black. Example 2. We are given P is equal to x over y. And we are told we should make x the subject formula. Okay? P is equal to x over y, and we are told we should make x the subject formula. So like I said, the first thing is we identify the terms. We will see that on this side, we only have one term. So we don't have any other terms to move over to the other side. Now since we don't have any other terms to move to the other side, we only have one term that contains our subject on one side. What do we do? What is the next thing? The next thing is to remove all the other variables connected to our subject. So now here we have y. So y is the variable that is connected to our subject. We want to remove y. So we ask ourselves, what is y doing to x? Y is dividing. So what do? We multiply it to the other side. Sometimes people say, let's multiply both sides. It's the same. Or you can just take the y and multiply it on one side. Because when you do this here, they will cancel out each other. So that we have y multiplied by p is equal to x. Now this means we have py is equal to x. So once x is on its own, we are done with changing the subject formula. So you can say x is equal to py. This is the answer. So you see that it's not something difficult. You just have to follow what is going on. Make sure you are taking your steps nicely. Don't follow any wrong steps. Okay, I'll continue. I just raised something there. I'll do another example. And as I'm doing these examples, I'm adding different types of same type of question that can come, so that we see how you can apply it in many different scenarios. So let's look at let me look at this. T is equal to SR. So that is example 2 over 100. So what do? We want to make R the subject formula. So this guy is what we want as the subject. In other words, okay, so now on this side, we check the terms. We only have one term that contains our subject. On this side, one term. So we go to the next step. We want to remove this 100 in this S. Normally, I encourage you to deal with the fraction first. So how do you remove this 100? By now, you should know. This 100 is divided. So what should we do? Opposite. Multiply by 100 both sides. So everything that is in this side will be multiplied by 100. And everything on this side will be multiplied by 100. Then we cancel here. So we are going to have 100 T is equal to S R. Now we still have an S. What do we do with this S? This S is multiplying the R. So what do we do? The opposite on both sides. We divide by S both sides. And that cancels. So you see that we have R is equal to 100 T over S. 100 T over S. That is how you would do this question. Let's do another one. Okay. Now we have T is equal to 3 plus 5 over V. Now what you want to make is V. I want to make V subject formula. So what do we do? Again, we check the number of terms. So we have this number, this term here, and this term there. So now because we have more than one term, we check the term that is our subject is this one. So we want to leave it there. We don't want to move it. So we have to move the other term onto the other side. So this term is positive here. So when it goes to the other side, it becomes the negative. So it becomes T minus 3 is equal to 5 over V. Now that we only have one term that is on this side, what do we do? Now you will see that we have a problem. Our term, the one that we want to make the subject, is at the bottom. It is a denominator. It should not be a denominator. It should be what? Numerator. So what do we do? So I can give you this one. What you can do is that this, you can just say these both can be expressed as fractions. Remember, if you divide all this by 1, you don't change, you didn't change anything. Then what you do is now you can just invert to say, okay, since this one is 5 over V, I want it to be V over 5. Okay? And then this one should also be inverted the same way. You can also invert it and say 1 over T minus 3. Now, once you have inverted it, now you have your V as a numerator. Now you want to remove 5. How do you remove 5? By just multiplying both sides by 5. And remember, whenever you're multiplying a fraction with a solid number, this solid number always multiplies the numerator. So you have 5 times 1. So your answer is going to be 5 over T minus 3. This is going to be equal to, this is our answer. Okay, so this is one way of doing it, where you invert. Now the other way of doing it, when you reach here, you can choose the one you like. The other way of doing it, I know people like cross multiplication. So once you say this is over 1, so you can cross multiply here. But remember, this V will multiply everything there. So we have V brackets because it's multiplying everything is equal to 1 times 5, that will give us a 5. Okay, cross multiplication. Now once you have this, remember your goal is to have only V on this side. So we must remove this whole bracket. But this whole bracket is multiplying V. So how do you remove it? By multiplying it, by dividing it both sides. So that this cancels that. then our answer is the same, 5 over t minus 3. That is how you would solve it. So you can choose to use this one where you invert. If you don't feel like this one is fine for you, you can just use this one. Okay. So the first thing you do, you make 5 substitute the formula first, then you can make 3 substitute the formula, which is pretty easy. So that's another way of solving this. Let me now give you another scenario. Right, as I said, I'm going to do a couple of examples because we have many different ways of solving these ones. So you can pause this to write if you're not done. But now I have to move on. Okay. Just want to leave this one. Okay. Okay, so let's do example 5, I think. Example number 5. Example 5 is saying t is equal to 2p plus ph, and they want us to make p the subject formula. So now the first step is we look at the terms. We have this term and that term. So how many terms contains our subject? Now you see that this term also has p, that term has p. So you don't know which one you should move this because both of them have the same term. So in actual effect, it must be like that. All the terms that contain our subject must be on one side of the equal sign. So this is fine. So what you basically need to do here is you need to factor out this p. So basically what you're going to do is factorization because p is common in both of them. So you have to factor out the p. So the p is our common factor. When you factor it out, remember you're going to do factorization here. So inside here, you're just going to write it the way it is. Then outside, okay, we have our common factor dividing inside there. Then you're going to have this canceling each other. So t is going to be p is equal to 2 plus h. So now you have one term. We've combined this to be one term. Remember, multiplication combines this to be one term. Now, once we have one term, we want p to remain on its own, so we have to remove this bracket. What is this bracket doing? It's multiplying p. So what do? We divide that bracket both sides. On both sides. So once we do that, then this is going to cancel. Then we remain with the p is equal to t over 2 plus h. That is it. So that is how you do this question here. Now I think I'm left with 2 more examples, then we are done. 2 more examples, then we are done. Example 6. Example 6, we have a is equal to 2r squared over 5. And we are told to make r the subject formula. You can already sense where we are going. Remember our goal, we want to make r subject formula. Now, how many terms do we have? We only have one term. And these terms consist of our subject. So what do? We want to remove this 5, then you remove this 2. So how do you do that? You multiply on both sides. Multiply because this 5 is dividing. So you multiply it on both sides. So now we are going to have 5a is equal to 2r squared. Okay. Now what else do you want to do? You want to remove this 2. So this 2 is multiplying both sides. So it's multiplying the r squared. So we must divide both sides. I know this. I know you know this. Understand this one already. Now what we remain with is r squared. Now once we are at r squared, what do we do? A squared becomes into a square root sign. So the next thing that we are going to do here, we are going to say square root both sides, so that this square root sign will cancel, take a square. So this one cancels that one. Then we are going to have the answer is r is equal to the square root of, don't simplify, 5a all over 2. So now you have made the subject of formula. Pretty simple. Very simple. Let's look at the last example. The last example for the day. Last example of the day. Okay, we have this one. G. Okay, it's fine. G is equal to, that's number, I think number 7. G is equal to the square root of h plus I. So we want to make h the substitute formula. So h is under the square root sign. We only have one term here. We have one term there. This one term because the square root combines the terms. So, but we want to have h. We have to deal with this square root first. When we have a square root here, we said if we have a square root, it goes to the other side, it becomes a square. So what I'm going to do here, in other words, is the same as squaring both sides. Then you should know that this square will cancel the square root sign. Then here we have g squared is equal to h plus I. Now once we have this, we now count again. Now we have two terms. We want h only, so we're going to take the I on the other side. So we're going to have g squared minus I here on this side. Now like this, we have made h the substitute formula because h is remaining on its own on one side of the equation. So even here they say usually on the left, it doesn't mean that it's always going to be on the left. It can be on the right, as long as it's on its own on that side. So that is how you do these changing substitute formula questions. So you have a lot of exercises that I was leaving out. Exercising starting from exercise 22. That is on page 73 to exercise 32 on page 76. Then on the same page, on page 76, we are going to do an exercise there. That complete exercise 13, which is A to B. Can you please do this? And if you find problems, you can send in your questions and I'll help you. Have a good day.